Well, hi there. I wanted to show you some fun videos today of some interesting edge-to-edge designs or, free motion quilting designs. The first one, I'm going to go ahead and call it Pong because it reminds me of that game, that bouncy ball game that would bounce around the screen. So typically I would do this with a ruler to keep those lines nice and straight. But, it's hard to do filming with a ruler without having a tripod. And the next video I'll be using a tripod, but this one I just wanted to freehand it. So you just bounce around your area with these, zigzagging lines. Try as you can to get kind of an even coverage. This is a really pretty design in borders or across entire quilts. I love quilting this as like a super modern modified grid on some of my, some of my quilts. I've really enjoyed using this design on it. You just kind of bounce around the area. There's no real wrong or right about it. You just do what feels good. And it's just fun to eat up the space with these bouncy lines. So we just zigzag back and forth. So at first I thought that I would name this design Zigzag, but it's not really a zigzag. It's definitely a super wild bounce. Oh, my thread broke. Sometimes, it works well. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know what's going on. My thread breaks a couple times during this series of edge-to-edge designs. Oh well, it happens. So we're just filling up the space, trying to get a nice coverage of quilting. Yeah, this is a fun one. I hope you try it. This is a really fun one to do on a domestic machine as well. You don't need a long arm. You could just load up your regular old sewing machine with your walking foot. This is a very walking foot friendly design. So we just fill up the space, bounce it around. I think I'm almost done with this one. Just a couple more lines to finish it up. So this is also a fun one to use like different colored threads on if you're feeling super arty and creative. Boing, there we go, broken thread again. I think I just finished it. So this design, I really enjoyed this one. I'm going to go ahead and name this one Krista Withers. This is who I learned this from. So first of all, you break up your space with, some double lines. Sometimes that's the easiest way to quilt a quilt. You see that big open space and you don't know what to do. If you break it up into different sections, it makes it a whole lot more approachable. So I've broken up the space and now I'm just filling it in with lines. I'm using my ruler. I've designed this ruler. It's 8 inches by 3 inches. It is the perfect size ruler for me because it's the perfect size of my hand stretched out. Sometimes it's like a Goldilocks, sometimes the rulers are too big, sometimes they're too small. So now we're just going to do some horizontal lines. Well, maybe not. We're doing vertical lines. So slow over the line we've sewn. So any line you've already sewn could be a little highway to go to a new space. We just fill up the space. And you can vary your line widths. I'm trying to keep mine about 1/4 inch apart. Sometimes they're more, sometimes they're less. It doesn't matter. No one's going to come and get you. I'm varying it with some diagonal lines now. And diagonal lines, you definitely need a ruler to do good diagonal lines. Oh, and just FYI, before you use a ruler on a long arm, you've got to make sure it's a long arm ruler and they're 1/4 of an inch thick. So they're fatter than your normal like quilting rulers. And you have to have a ruler base on your machine. Now, if you don't know what that is, please don't start ruler work until you've discovered it. And I could show another video in the future of, what a ruler base is and how I set it up. I'm going to go ahead and assume that most long arms come with a ruler base, but they're absolutely critical for ruler work. Yeah. Like when I first started quilting, I didn't know that was important. And, I'd seen people doing ruler work and I was like, how hard can it be? So I just loaded up, a quilt. I got my Omni Grid ruler and I tried to do ruler work and I was not successful. I broke several rulers. I thought it was me. But you know what? You don't know what you don't know. So I'm just, playing with my ruler. I like to do some fun designs with these straight lines. So I'm going to just do some pretty swirls and pebbles. As I think that the mixture of both the swirl and the straight line is it's just so striking. It's beautiful. It's like, it's just wonderful. So I'm just doing some classic overlapping swirls, which we learned in the first lesson. So here we are, just swirling away. And the spots that we don't put swirls, you just add pebbles. Pebbles go with everything. They're like the little black dress of quilting. So just fill up your space with what you feel comfortable working with. It's fun to just play. Now, I don't recommend you load up, your magnum opus to practice these designs on. Just load up some, fun fabric and some fun thread and have a good time. I'll be cutting this piece up and making them into zipper bags later. So we just fill up the space with some pretty quilting designs. No pressure. We're just having fun. All right, I've got that little spot filled up with swirls and pebbles, and now I'm going to finish with my straight lines. Got my ruler out. I'm broken up the space again because that was a little much. I have to move because my tripod's in the way. Did you like how you just hovered off the ground like you could fly? Yes. So, I love doing videos on Instagram, but I'm trying a longer format here on YouTube. I learned to quilt by watching other quilters work. I find it very relaxing. It's like drawing, but with thread and a machine. So we just fill up the space. Now, this design is not for every quilt, okay? I quilted this style on a quilt for one of my friends, Sue, and she put it into a regional quilt festival and it won. So yay! So this is an award-winning design and I recommend you try it out. It's very modern. If you didn't do, I think swirls are kind of feminine. But, you could certainly do a different design that you would consider more masculine. Because, face it, half the quilts we make are for males. And, although my sons, they're perfectly happy with my super floral applique quilts. But, sometimes I just want, to make something that I think is more masculine for them. So here we are, finishing up our straight lines, eating up the space, filling it up. Using our ruler. Now, you know, you've got to play with your ruler, because if you push too hard, it's too hard to move the machine. And if you don't push hard enough, you know, you can't, the ruler will slide around. All right, I'm going to go to a new spot. Cut the thread. There's nothing wrong with just cutting the thread if you need to and starting somewhere else. You don't have to do a whole design with one with one thread. You absolutely can cut your thread and start over. So here we go. And look at that, we're going to do some horizontal lines. And, you know, I don't do a lot of thread burying. Sometimes I do, just depending on how I feel. I've got a really cool needle called Snag Magic. It's got a big, long nylon loop and with a big, fat needle. And it makes burying threads a breeze. But obviously I didn't use it for this video. My tripod is in the way. So here we go. We're almost done. Just going to eat up the space with our quilting. And, you know, looking at my hands in this video, they look just like my mom's hands. Isn't that funny how that happens? Just fill up the space. And you could plan ahead of time how you want to do it, but you certainly don't have to. You know, just kind of take it as it comes and do what feels right. All right, boop. Let's cut our thread and let's move on to our next little section. Cut the thread and boom.